So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go down memory lane. Take your time out. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, or follow the FightView360 Boxing Podcast, available on all of your listening platforms from Spotify, Amazon, Audible, Google, Stitcher, iHeart, Podbeam. All the other platforms are listed in the show notes or in the description box of the YouTube video. But this is likely going to be just a podcast exclusive. So thank you. Please download our podcast. We're going to be uploading podcasts multiple weekly, from press events to podcast exclusive to hybrid, where they'll be available on YouTube, TstreeT Controversy, and in podcast form. And got some interviews coming up. But listen, let's go down memory lane. What the hell happened to Anthony Joshua? Now 24-3 with 22 KOs. Last fight, 32 years old. Last fight, he lost to Oleksandr Usyk via split decision. I actually had it about 116, 112 or so. It's 2 back-to-back losses he's had. The first fight, Joshua weighed in at 240. For the second fight, he came in at 244, which I was like, okay, you know what? That's already a bad sign right there. Usyk weighed in at 221 pounds for both fights, give or take a quarter a pound or so. And a lot of people thought that maybe he was going to come in heavier for the second fight, but he didn't. However, we do know that Usyk is not invincible. He's not a guy you can look at in the heavyweight division and say, yo, he can beat everybody. And you feel confident about it. At least not me. You know, I don't think he can beat Tyson Fury, but we'll talk about that later on in the video, as well as what's going to happen with a possible Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder fight. Deontay Wilder is going to be returning October the 15th on PBC on Fox pay-per-view against sparring partner Robert Helenius. Dylan White beat Robert Helenius. Derek Chisora beat Robert Helenius, or should have. I don't remember exactly the results. I believe no. Didn't Helenius get a gift? I'm pretty sure of that. But anyway, moving on. Let's go back down memory lane. For those who didn't get a chance to listen to Anthony Joshua's, I guess you're going to call it a meltdown is what people are calling it. But I just feel that being the company man that he's been having a little bit too much on his shoulders. But let's go ahead and play this. And for those who didn't get a chance to hear it, at the end of the Usyk-Joshua fight, Joshua just started acting a mess. And then at the post-fight press conference, went on to cry. And I'm like, bro, don't do it. People already saying you mentally weak. Don't do it. But let's go listen in.
And still the unified heavyweight champion of the world from Ukraine, Oleksandr Usyk. Ladies and gentlemen, a great fight by two heavyweight warriors. Let's give them both a round of applause.
Very strong guy, listen. I don't care about strong, I have to have skills. Being strong doesn't win boxing. Okay. Skills win boxing.
Yeah, okay.
You're not strong, how did you beat me?
Let's do this.
How? Because of skills.
Let's do the
I had character.
Okay.
And determination.
Listen.
Where's the mic?
Listen.
I just want to say.
One hell of a fight, man. Let's give him a round of applause. Oh, man. So that's just emotion. Wait, I'm talking. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, guys. Look, if you knew my story, you would understand the passion. I ain't no amateur boxer from 5 years old that was an elite prospect from a youth, bro. I was going to jail. I see some hype little youths in Reading jail. I got bail and I started training because if I got sentenced, I wanted to be able to fight. I bust my case. My cousin Benga, where's he at? G14, raise your hand. I'm stealing this, Usyk, sorry. But it's because passion we put into this man. Guys, I'm telling you, this guy to beat me tonight, maybe I could have done better, but it shows the levels of hard work he must have put in. So please, give him a round of applause as our heavyweight champion of the world.
Awkward.
I'm not a 12-round fighter. Look at me. I'm a new breed of heavyweights. All them heavyweights, Mike Tyson, Sonny Liston, Jack Dempsey. Oh, yeah, you don't throw combinations like Rocky Marciano. Because I ain't 14 stone, that's why. I'm 18 stone, I'm heavy. It's hard work. This guy here is a phenomenal talent. We're going to cheer for him 3 times. Well, how many belts you got now, bro? 5. Hip, hip. Hip, hip. Hip, hip. Hip, hip. Hip, hip. And as I said, I was studying Ukraine and all the champions that have come from your amazing country, but I've never been there. But at the same time, what's happening there is, I don't know what's happening, but it's not nice at the end of the day. I've seen it with Lomachenko in his second fight against Orlando. There was unrest in Ukraine, right or wrong. There was issues in Ukraine in your second fight. There was civil war. Vitaly Klitschko, when he faced Danny Williams, civil unrest. Usyk as a champion, please raise your hand. Under them circumstances, he managed to become champion. Champ, champ! Champ, champ! Champ, champ! And I just want to say, Bismillah.
Bizarre, right? And, you know, I always felt that he was doing the company man thing, and it's not really who he is. I remember when I was at the Jarrell Miller press conference in New York before Jarrell Miller had popped dirty, and he was talking about how he's the landlord, and he was talking all this shit, you know, to Jarrell Miller, and it sounded like it sounded like that's really him. But because of all the brand deals and, you know, him, you know, trying to be the role model, it seems like it's been weighing heavy on him. That's just my personal opinion. But we're going to bring my colleague in and we're going to do a deep dive and talk about what's next. All right, I got my colleague here, Mikey from Northern Ireland, which I always seem to get confused. But I wanted to get someone's UK's thoughts, and we're going to be having Mikey on the show a lot more going forward in the future. I wanted to get somebody's UK's thoughts and for you guys to hear a UK view of what's been going on with Joshua as of late and how they may feel he's been affected by losing to Usyk twice and what's possibly next in the future. But Mikey, you can go ahead and give your social media handles.
Yeah, so it's Mikey at FightView360.com. is my email address. It's just FightView360 as the YouTube channel that I run, but then help out with the website.
Perfect. And is there a underscore in your Twitter?
Yeah, it's
Well, basically, it'll come up Yo Mikey FightView360. But let's jump right into things before we start. Before I play this clip from Eddie Hearn. Okay, so Joshua loses split decision to Oleksandr Usyk 2 weeks ago, August the 20th. It's now September the 3rd. Exactly 2 weeks ago, actually, you know, literally, it's 2 weeks ago today. The first question is, how did you think that Joshua looked? Did you see any improvements with the new trainer, Robert Garcia?
I thought there was some improvements, but not a massive amount. Like, there was some head and feet improvements, but nowhere near enough. AJ was still very cautious. He didn't do anywhere near enough to win the fight. Mm-hmm. And if he's going to move forward, I think he's going to have to change things up again. You know, like, the unwritten rule within boxing is a challenger has to come and take the titles from the champion.
Correct.
And AJ didn't do that. He just pretty much fought the same fight as he did in the first fight. And in the first fight, it was the wrong tactics. And then he did the same tactics again in the second fight. He was never going to win that fight. Then his corner pretty much caused the scenes at the end of the fight because they were telling him the wrong things, really. And I think in his head, he thought he won that fight. And clearly he didn't. He wasn't anywhere near as good as he's ever been before. Mm. And he pretty much just handed the fight to Usyk.
Yeah, he seemed to, you know, first it seemed like he had a good game plan, you know, the first couple of rounds. You know, we saw that he was on the front foot more, you know, not keeping it in the middle of the ring, you know. But at the end of the day, he did go back to the way he went in the first fight where he was trying to outbox Usyk. And I don't know if it was, the plan was, and it was talked about all week, especially on Sky Sports, is that they had to make it a 6-round fight. And that, if Joshua wasn't doing anything of significance through 6 rounds, then pretty much he was going to lose to Usyk on the cards again. Now, I did like the body work, though.
You look at it, the first 4 rounds, he really didn't do much.
Mm-hmm.
He pretty much came out, was cautious. It's almost like he didn't want to be explosive and engage Usyk straight away. And then there was one round where he did engage, and then the next round after that, it seemed like he was burnt out.
Yeah. What round was that? That was I believe that was around
8 or 9.
9. It was round 9.
Yeah.
And then he just he let it go, and then he was gassed. He was done after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I found interesting was, what was the thought process of coming into this fight 4 pounds heavier than the first fight? And for example, when he had fought Andy Ruiz in the first fight, he weighed in at 247. The second fight, 237, clearly slimmer, and we saw it in his movement in the ring. He moved around a lot. Now, Andy Ruiz, of course, damn near gained 20 pounds in between fights, but still, you did see okay, this slimmer AJ, he seems to have a better gas tank. For the first fight with Usyk, he weighed in at 240, and then this one he came in at 244 and a half. And I'm thinking, what's the thought process? You're a heavyweight. We know you got power, so it's not like you're putting on the weight to sit on your punches. Yeah,
well, there was that sort of rumor going about that Usyk was coming in around 240 himself, which I don't know if AJ's team sort of believed that, and then thought, well, if he's coming in heavier, we've got to be a wee bit heavier as well to then sort of meet par with par. But Usyk's not a power puncher in heavyweight. So was there a bit of gamesmanship there? I don't know. The AJ's team were sort of caught out on. But Usyk's game plan was always quick movement, quick shots, and get in and out and win the rounds. Where AJ, he looked a bit slow. He was almost plodding at times, throwing that jab out, and Usyk was easy enough for him to get out of the way of it.
Yeah. So
I personally think it was wrong tactics from AJ and his team again, and they kind of almost played into Usyk's hands.
Mm-hmm. So we already played at the beginning of the podcast, and once again, take your time out, like the video, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. But this is likely going to be a podcast exclusive episode. We're going to be doing multiple throughout the week podcast exclusive episodes, and it'd be great if you can download. We're available on all of your listening platforms. They're down in the description box or the show notes, or just search the FightView360 Boxing Podcast on YouTube or on any of your Amazon products. So, we already played the clip of the meltdown.
Yeah.
Now, personally, I thought that, and I still do think that this company man, brand ambassador, role model thing that he's been doing for the last several years, it's okay to be that. But I feel that he's been kind of burnt out from that, because when he was in the build up to the Jezreel Miller fight, and I was at that New York press conference, he was laying into Jezreel Miller, and it seemed like when he was calling himself the landlord, that seemed like that was his natural self. And I feel like the guy that we saw in that ring, that was a merger of the two. The company man and him wanting to really, really, be himself. But at the end of the day, it came across really cringy and fucked up. I didn't like the fact that he took the belts, Usyk's belts, by the way, picked them up and then dropped them out the ring. He tried to leave, and not do a post-fight interview, and I'm glad that he came. Well, put it this way: a lot of people may say he shouldn't have came back, but still, to walk away like that, I don't know. I want to hear your opinion on it, because it's just I have mixed feelings on it.
Yeah, I think the pressure was just building. You look, whenever he sort of first started, he won the gold medal in the Olympics, and then that's when the hype sort of started. And then he was knocking people out left, right, and centre, like sort of cannon fodder opposition that he was expected to beat anyway. And then the hype just built and built and built. And then he beat a poor George Martin to win the title. You know what I mean? He beat an injured Dylan White. And then he fought sort of substandard people. Well, apart from Klitschko, really, you could say it was his first sort of major test.
Yes.
And then sort of he felt then, you know, he should be amongst the greats, you know, the fact he had all these belts.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, the thing is, like, he just, the pressure was obviously too much for him. You know, he lost the first fight against Usyk. He thought he was going to come back and win it again. And then it just kind of boiled up and boiled over and he exploded. I thought it was very disrespectful and sort of picking the belts up and throwing them to out of the ring.
Yeah.
He was saying all this stuff to Usyk when, as far as I know, Usyk doesn't understand any English at all, so he hadn't a clue what he was talking about. And he maybe put himself on a pedestal to say, like, I should have won this fight, when realistically everyone knows he didn't do anywhere near enough to win that fight. And I think that all of these factors sort of amalgamated to him basically boiling over and then sort of always having a meltdown really in the ring. And
you know, now and it's been circulating about, you know, with, you know how fans are on social media, you know, now, and he does, you know, it's taboo to talk about, you know, amongst media, but he does have that tag of being, you know, like mentally weak. You know, like a lot of people thought, including myself, you know, at the final press conference when Usyk started to sing, you know, whatever he was singing, I was told it was a Ukrainian anthem, but when he started to sing, you know, you just saw, like, you know, Joshua just kind of like just ease off. It was the same feeling for that first Ruiz fight and a little bit for the first Usyk fight, you know, so I don't know what's going on. You know, maybe he needs to see a sports psychologist. That was the rumor, is he did get a sports psychologist after the first Ruiz loss, but it's definitely something going on, you know, the mix of the pressure. Yeah. And, you know, now he's got that tag.
Yeah, also as well online, I've seen it where people are starting to call him Frank Bruno too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's got the no head movement, he's slow and he's gassing out. That's the same sort of things that they put at Frank Bruno's door, you know. Even Tyson Fury's calling him a bodybuilder. Again, that's another thing that people used to call Frank Bruno. But then do we look at, did Frank Bruno maybe fight in a harder time in the heavyweight division a better division back in the 80s and the early 90s?
It was pure grit.
You know what I mean? So I don't know, is that a fair reflection of people calling him Frank Bruno too, or is that the way he's kind of going? Although he has won more belts than whatever Frank Bruno ever did, but at the same time, is it a weaker division now?
Yeah. Yeah, so question before we go listen to Eddie Hearn and what he had to say about Joshua's, you know, mental collapse or whatever you want to call it in the ring. Do you think that Frank Bruno would beat Anthony Joshua? You know, if they were to fight. I don't like doing fantasy matches, but how do you think that fight will go?
Nah, I'm not a big fan of fantasy matches myself, but I don't know. It's hard to say, you know.
Because, see, you know, my personal opinion, and we can't really gauge it because, you know, it was a different division, different time. But I do feel that Joshua, you know, is more of a better technician.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's probably true.
You know, so
but then the question is,
go ahead.
Are you going to play a clip, or are we going to?
Yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, well, then the thing is, realistically, where does AJ go next? You know, what can he do? There's a lot of rumors and stuff flying about at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
But like I have heard that he is going to be back out again in December. But I'm thinking, is that maybe too soon for him?
I think it's too soon. But you know what? This is a good time to play this clip because this is what Eddie Hearn had to say at the post-fight press conference about what he wants to do with him.
In the ring after, the key to life is happiness, you know? And at the end of the day, I just want him to be happy. He's given his whole life since he started to the sport of boxing, and people don't realise that what a bubble it is in the life and world of Anthony Joshua. You know, when everybody in the country knows who he is, everybody's got an opinion of who he is. He's in the gym all the time with his team. He's living up in Loughborough. He's away from home. You know, there isn't anyone I know that's more dedicated to the sport than him. And sometimes people don't understand the pressures that are on people's shoulders. But he's never ducked a challenge. He's never shirked the pressure. He's always tried to give his time for people, and he's always tried to inspire the next generation. He's been an amazing ambassador. For the first time in boxing, You see all these complete dickheads, many of them tonight on social media, they've got too much to say for themselves, that want to pretend they're good people, that actually aren't role models, that aren't ambassadors, that aren't people that I would want my kids to look up to. This is someone that I want my kids to look up to. But for the first time, and that responsibility is a huge burden, and he's always felt that responsibility. If he's out in public, he gives everybody his time, right? He's one of the nicest guys you can ever meet, and he's a competitor, he's a winner. And when you don't win, and you see, what you saw tonight was a raw emotion, a real person that was feeling the pressure, that wanted to win so badly. And people need to realise that you live in an online world where it's just opinions, stick, abuse, and he'll never tell you that the pressure, he sees that or he feels it. But it's impossible not to. So what I want to see is I want to see him happy, and I think what we want to see is we want to see him be active. Too many gaps between fights, too many stadium fights. You know, from the Dillian White fight at the O2, to Charles Martin at the O2, to Dominic Brazil at the O2, to Eric Molina at Manchester Arena, to Vladimir Klitschko at Wembley Stadium, to Carlos Takam at the Millennium Stadium, to Joseph Parker at the Millennium Stadium, to Alexander Povetkin at Wembley Stadium, to Andy Ruiz at Madison Square Garden, to Andy Ruiz in Riyadh, to Kubrat Pulev at the O2, to Oleksandr Usyk at Tottenham Hotspur, to Oleksandr Usyk. That is the run that Anthony Joshua has been on. No Tom Schwartz, no Sefer Sefer. No, I do. No, but I do, because you don't get the credit. No, but I'm going to give you the credit, because at the end of the day, you've had to step up to carry the sport in our country. It's true. You know, we've joked before. You said, "God, I have to have all these tough fights." You saw people have these easy fights. You never had them. You never wanted them, because you want to create a resume. Yeah, but because you're a fighter, you're a winner. You wanted to fight the elite. You fought the pound for pound, back to back, right? At Tottenham, you lost. Tonight, you lost a split decision to the best fighter in the sport. Everybody else would have vacated the WBO belt before the Tottenham fight. So I will say, because people take easy touches, fans moan about fighters ducking fights, taking easy touches. He's never taken an easy touch, and we should be very, very proud of him.
And Joshua.
All right, and that's going into basically the next thing we're going to be talking about is what's next for Anthony Joshua. What have you heard, or what's going around?
Well, what's been mentioned is there was three possibilities: a fight with Wilder, Andy Ruiz fight for the third fight, or Dylan White for the second fight. But if they're wanting him to go out in December, Wilder's out of the question because he's fighting in October.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Ruiz is out of the question as well because he's fighting Ortiz soon.
One day from the recording of this podcast. He's fighting tomorrow.
And I think Dylan White it'd be too emotional of a fight to have straight away after those two losses against Usyk. So I had a look around, and apparently back in May of this year, AJ came out himself with a statement basically saying if he couldn't get the second Usyk fight going, he wanted to fight Otto Wallin, who has fought Tyson Fury before, the Swedish fighter. He's meant to be half decent. I think he's only lost one fight. You know, he's ranked top 15 within the IBF and the WBO, which is actually the only two places that AJ has ranked himself, is only in the IBF and WBO. When I was checking our rankings earlier, you know, so a fight with Otto Wallin mightn't be a bad fight, you know, for AJ to take on in December. But because Otto Wallin hasn't actually fought since May of this year, so I think that would be his best option for a fight. And then also Eddie Hearn today, and now it was through the tabloids, but it basically was announcing that he wants to do a 5-fight tour with AJ. So a fight in London, a fight in Beijing, a fight in America, a fight in Australia, and a fight in the Middle East. And basically the reason for that, well, I'm thinking anyway, is that he doesn't want his cash cow to go just yet. He's making too much money off AJ. But he's also pushing for AJ White too in one of those fights, in one of those locations. Mm-hmm. But realistically, if AJ loses his next fight, whoever that will be in December, and another fight after that, could we possibly see AJ walking away from the sport? Maybe.
Yeah. I'm fine. Well, I believe that they're not going to be pursuing any more titles. If titles are available, then they'll go after them. But I don't believe, they're going to be pursuing titles. The 5-fight tour makes sense because, let's say, for example, the return fight against Ottawa Lean, and I don't believe it's going to be December. I really don't. But if it is December, it's going to be Ottawa Lean. And then if they go to China, it's going to be Zheli Zhang, who lost a controversial fight to Felix Hergovitz. And every time you see Zheli Zhang fight, they're always talking about during the commentary, oh, if this guy fights over in China, it's going to be big, money and big views. So me personally, those two fights right there, I will not be surprised if those are the two that are made. Between Wallin, and if he beats him, then goes on to fight Zhang. Right now, I think those are the most realistic options. And then the Dillian Whyte fight, you're right, because Dillian Whyte's right now, as we're recording this, Sky Sports is having a card headlined by Liam Smith, and Dillian Whyte is there right now at the card, and also has been heavily rumored throughout the week that he is in negotiations, with Sky and Boxer, for a deal. And AJ right now, politically broadcast, he's now officially signed to the Zone. So that was his last fight on Sky Sports for the foreseeable future.
Right.
So that would throw in, for the Dillian Whyte, it would be too much political broadcaster mumbo jumbo. So I don't see that fight happening anytime soon, especially if Dillian Whyte does sign with Sky Sports. And you would think that they would want to throw the money at him because, they do need a big heavyweight. And they're really trying to get their boxing, built up and Boxer built up, especially since Eddie Hearn is exclusively on the Zone. So you got Deontay Wilder taking on Robert Helenius, a sparring partner, and I've been talking about that fight all week. You can actually check out the episode of the press conference on the podcast and on the YouTube channel. But they're going to be fighting October the 15th on here in the States in the Barclays Center. It's going to be on PBC on Fox pay-per-view. And Shelly Finkel, the handler of Deontay Wilder, has been in the media lately talking about that they would welcome an Anthony Joshua fight. Now, my question to you is, after Helenius, if Wilder beats Helenius, which he's expected to do, Helenius is good, but he has a jelly chin. And also, they're sparring partners. So that already taints the fight for me, especially for it to be a pay-per-view. But if Joshua was to go ahead and beat Ottawa Lean, do you think, spring 2023, they got to pull the trigger? Do you think they're going to? Do you have confidence that maybe they'll pull the trigger?
I would love them to pull the trigger in that fight because, let's be honest, we want Wilder to fight AJ. We want Wilder to fight all these other top heavyweights because he's known for the hardest punch in the division. Mm-hmm. And the question's always been, could AJ take one of his big punches or the windmill when he brings it out to play? But realistically, do I think that fight will happen? I'm not so sure because I think Wilder's going after, he wants titles again. Mm-hmm. So basically, if the Fury Usyk fight happens, then, and whoever wins that, I think that's what Wilder's looking at. I don't think he's looking at AJ. He wants to win the title again. He wins one title or all titles, whatever's on the line. I think that's what Wilder will go after.
It's just too much money on the line for them, and I don't have any confidence either it's going to happen. And it's sad that we're in this state of boxing. But also both fighters and both teams know that if one of them loses, they're really, really done. So the plan is, this is what the plan's supposed to be. You have Andy Ruiz taking on Ortiz on pay-per-view, Fox pay-per-view as well, tomorrow night or one day after we're recording this podcast, September the 4th. It's a Sunday night pay-per-view here in the States because it's going to be the day before Labor Day. And then you have Wilder fighting a month later, basically, on PBC on Fox pay-per-view against Helenius. And the winner of both of those fights are supposed to fight, especially if it's going to be Wilder and Ruiz. And that's expected to happen sometime in the spring or so, late winter, early spring. But then after that, I mean, realistically, I would rather see, Wilder versus Joshua and Joshua beat Ottawa Lean. I think he can. And them two fight in the summer, but it's just it's sad we're in this landscape to where it's not going to happen, and that has been the question is because we've seen AJ hurt, we've seen him buzzed, but we haven't seen him knocked out. And can Wilder do it? I think that Joshua will be able to outbox him, but what's going to happen when, he hits him with, as you said, the windmill, because one thing about Wilder, and we've seen, that shit is not known. It's not a myth. That power is not a myth. When he had hit Wilder Fury in that second fight, and he hit him square in the face, and you saw the fat from Fury neck just ripple all the way down, and then it got to his legs. It's like an aftershock to it. Like he will, and he's got those skinny legs, but he puts, from how big his back is, like he puts so much, into his punches. And I think that Wilder would be able to take a Joshua punch. I don't think it's the other way around. I'm not sure. But on to the next topic before we have to wrap up. Do you feel that Fury Joshua is going to happen? And is that still? It's still a big fight, but has it lost its luster kind of the same way Joshua versus Wilder has?
I think it's a bigger fight than Joshua Wilder for the simple reason it's two British fight. Well, it's two British fighters, so it's going to be bigger on this side of the pond, if you know what I mean. Because that fight's been mooted around for a few years now of those two getting it on. But personally, I don't think it'll ever happen. I think Fury's got one more fight in him, and that's it. He's seeing the payday, and he wants to get his money and get out again. Looking at it, he's doing the retirement announcement, and then from that retirement announcement, he did a tour around the UK of an after party, stopping off at hotels where people have to buy tickets. So he's still going ahead with that, even though he's announced that he's not retired anymore. So he's trying to get the money in, and then he's asking for a lot of money for the fight against Usyk. So I think no matter win or lose in the next fight, I think that's Fury done. I don't think we'll see him again, to tell you the truth.
And that's what it's looking like to me, is that he's trying to get the most money as possible. I talked about it a little bit briefly in a video, but basically since he was MTK's number one boxer, financially, I think something's going on there, because like he's been on social media so much to the point where you never know what to believe from him. And right now, there is a quiet bidding war, because they were talking about it this last week on the Top Rank on ESPN broadcast here in the States for the Richard Comey versus Jose Pedraza card. So, here in the States, Tyson Fury is a top rank ESPN fighter. So they are in the know. And basically, it's about $150 million that's going around for a split between Fury and Joshua Fury and Usyk coming from Saudi Arabia. So that's too much money, $75 million. That's too much money to walk away from. Now, do I believe that fight is worth that much? No, I don't think they'll ever be able to recoup that back. But still, Fury is looking at that, and he's got his eye on it. And I wonder, if it comes around, for it to be a Joshua fight, can he turn down that money? Because
I don't know if he has the interest then anymore. The fact that he announced his retirement, it's almost like he was already thinking about it. So therefore, it's too big an opportunity now to fight Usyk and be the undisputed heavyweight champion that there's never been before. I think that's what he wants to go out in a high almost. He wouldn't. It'd be like Rocky Marciano again, unbeaten. And basically undisputed. No one's ever done that before. So it's a best way to go out, and I think he would go out in a high if he was to win it.
Yeah, okay, that does make sense, because he has been wishy-washy, for several months now, about retirement and not wanting to fight. And you're right. I think even after Dylan White talking about he wanted to fight Francis Ngannou, I think that's the way he's going to go. He's going to go ahead and fight Usyk. Get the payday, and then he'll have all the belts, and he can retire. And what better way is there to retire than that? Me personally, I would say retire if I was his team. It's like, look, that Joshua fight, but you already did everything, and Joshua already lost. You're better than him. And you beat the guy that beat him. You beat the guy that beat him twice.
Yeah, there's no point. It's only to say you're the best of Britain. He doesn't need to, because he could say he's the best in the world, the best there's ever been. So why would you have that fight?
Yeah, all right. So, final question. How do you think that Fury versus Usyk plays out?
Well, as I said before, I don't think Usyk has the power in the heavyweight division to really stop people, and I don't see him having the power to stop Fury. And although Fury himself isn't known for his punching power, he can stop fighters.
Yeah.
And when you look at, he likes using the Klitschko lean to wear opponents down, get them tired, and that helps him sort of end fights quicker. Personally, I think Fury wins either by a late stoppage or a points victory. I can't see Usyk winning.
And I can't see, you know, I'm picking Fury because Fury can box, that jab, you know, and the guy's 6'9". You know how you know it's not like he's not going to Usyk is going to have to be working overtime to try to slip Tyson Fury's jab like he was doing with Anthony Joshua. You know, and Fury, you know, he's not only a technician, but yes, you know, he does have that you know, the tactics. I'm not going to call them dirty, but you know, he does, you know, have that ring generalship to where he will try to wear Usyk down. He's going to try to make it an ugly fight. And he's going to, and just like he did with Wilder, I'm not comparing Usyk to Wilder, but what I'm saying is he's going to take the fight right to Usyk, you know, and crowd his face, something that Joshua should have did. And he's probably going to tell Usyk what he's going to do. I'm going to walk right up to him, you know, I'm going to get right in his face and I'm going to see what he's got. He's got no power.
Yeah, he's going to meet him in the middle of the ring. Basically, what's he got to worry about? He's, 6'8" is Fury, is that right? And Usyk is 6'3". He's got nothing to worry about. He'll go out and meet him head on and start popping the jab, moving and jerking like he does, and just kind of play Usyk at his own game almost. You know what I mean? That's what Usyk did with AJ. He's going to do the same thing to Usyk, and then basically just wear him down, and I think get the win.
Okay, so from a level of 1 to 10, how big do you how big do you view that fight?
Probably about a 7, just for the simple reason I think Tyson Fury would be a big favourite. Yeah. Especially with the bookies. Even though Usyk is the champion, Fury's going to be a big favourite, I think, in this fight.
Do you feel the fight should happen in the UK? Because right now, basically what I'm asking is, it's looking like you know, the Saudis may be putting up the money. Yeah. Well, but do you feel it should be a UK fight?
Probably America, Vegas maybe would probably be the best place for it, but realistically it's probably going to be Saudi Arabia where the money is, because let's be honest, that's all he cares about with this fight. He wants the money and he wants the titles. So I think Saudi Arabia, but it would be good to have it in Vegas, because at the end of the day that's where all the massive fights have always been, you know.
All right, closing thoughts on AJ?
Closing thoughts on AJ is basically, I think he needs to go away and get his head cleared.
How long of a layoff?
I would maybe bring him back, maybe spring, next year. I wouldn't maybe try and rush him out in December, because I don't think his head will be right. Get his head sorted. I think he needs to work on his punching. Basically, needs to stop trying to box people. When he just goes in and uses his power, that's how he gets wins. I mean, go back to maybe what he was doing before. You know?
Yeah, I'm hoping, you know, me personally, I do believe that he should take 4 months to himself before he starts training camp. You know, like take, you know, at least 3 months, you know, like where, you know, he doesn't think about boxing. He goes and takes care of himself. Because there is a lot of pressure on his shoulders. I mean, big event after big event after global event, you know, and he's clearly shown us now that the pressure does get to him. Pressure bursts pipes, and we've seen the pipe burst.
Yeah.
You know, and rushing him back in December, I do believe, you know, I agree with you, because I just feel it's a little too soon. After what we've seen, you know, the meltdown in the ring, then crying at the post-fight press conference, you know, and then he's pretty much fell off the grid. You know, so I'm guessing he is taking care of himself. But yeah, he shouldn't be back anytime soon. But all right, we're gonna wrap up right there. Thanks for listening in, and please make sure, if you're listening on Apple, to leave a review, and be great if you can give us 5 stars. But that is your opinion. We're available on all of your listening platforms, listed down below in the description box and in the show notes. So thanks for listening in to the FightView360 podcast. We'll be having Mikey back on the show more, and go check out our rankings on the FightView360.com website, which is updated monthly in accordance with the sanctioning bodies. Thanks for listening in. Please subscribe, follow, like. See you guys later.